Alright guys, welcome back to the channel and continuation of looking at how battles are fought in Birthright as far as armies are concerned, and then some of the individual war cards that you have at your disposal from the core box. Now, some of these you do certainly get more of than others, so some are even one of, but nothing says you can't photocopy some extra unit cards, as again, you do, or you will likely want more of some of these as well. So we start off with some of the non-human ones here. So gnolls, we get two options here: gnoll infantry and gnoll marauders. Marauders are pretty solid, so decent move, solid melee, and a little bit of missile work as well. They can only take a hit, but again, a nice all-rounder for gnoll forces there. The gnoll infantry is actually pretty nasty overall, stronger than their human counterparts, and they actually come with missile ability as well, and faster to boot. So, and they still have the +1 bonus versus pikes or irregular. So gnoll infantry are very nasty, and again can take 2 hits, but that built-in melee 4, defense 4 is nasty, along with missiles and speed. So gnolls are always something you gotta worry about and respect, especially in quantity. One of here. Stone Crown Ogres, very nasty. I think one of the highest melees here. Just straight up 7. Defense, not as great, only a 3, but they can move fast, so they're going to get to you. But they can also take 3 hits, which is huge. They're going to be around for quite some time. Now, the first hit drops them to only melee 5, which is already still, that's great. 2 hits, still melee 4. Finally, at 3 hits, the melee 3, which is a little bit more manageable, but you do have to put in a lot of work to get rid of them. We're going to skip over here just a second. The Undead Legion is another one that's very nasty. So, and again, we have like the Wizard Realm spells. Check our series on that, where you basically can summon this. So, just solid melee of 5, can take 2 hits, but it's that defense of 7, which is just absolutely nasty. All 3 morale icons to boot, and only a move of 1, thankfully. But yeah, one of these is bad enough. A whole battlefield full is pretty damn tough to crack, and they can take 2 hits as well. Now, once they've taken a hit or 2, their melee output certainly drops, but again, good luck punching through defense 7. And then they also ignore all fallback and route results except those caused by magic attacks. So now if you have casters, you have a much better chance, but it's still a pain in the ass to deal with. So then, actually, we'll come back over here. Sorry for the quick pan. We do get 2 different Orog units. So we get the Orog Pikes, very solid, similar to their human counterparts, better against mounted units. The Orog Infantry is also pretty solid, but again, are better at night. So something else you can incorporate into your battles. So, and they're fairly slow as well. So very similar to their human counterparts there. Now, there's another special card, the Warband of Markazor. So you should have a couple of these elite units if you're fighting in and around there. So these guys are really sort of the cream of the crop as far as like goblin type units are concerned. Move 2, melee and defense 4, so already kind of upper tier. Has a charge value on infantry, which isn't very common, of 5. Missile 3 as well, all 3 morale icons, and also ignores all fallback and route results, period. So just strong. And they can still take 2 hits. So now, thankfully, once they've taken their second hit, or they're on their second hit, the missile ability goes away entirely, but at 1 hit, they're still fairly good. And then we come to goblins specifically. We do get several different types of units here. So we'll start with the goblin archers. Very weak in melee, of course, but missile 3 is solid, and better missile attacks against mounted units. They can only take 1 single hit, and they're essentially all but guaranteed to be destroyed once they get there. Goblin infantry, fairly weak overall, as you would expect, and slow, but they do get the bonus versus pikes or irregulars. But they also, unlike the human side, do come with missile 1, which, every once in a while will contribute a hit or 2 in some battles. Wolf Riders are very good, if not necessarily like exceptional in stats, but pretty fast. Again, they're cavalry, right? Move 2, average melee values, but has a charge value of 4, so they can do some work. But also, again, missiles. So pretty much everything on the goblin side will have access to missiles. So they're always, no matter where they're at in the battlefield, going to be able to engage you. And as I said, occasionally a couple hits will get through, and then that will help mitigate their generally weaker stats. Goblin guards are the cream of the crop there, so they have a better melee of 4, still average defense, but again, missiles, built-in missile 2, and they do have the bonus versus pikes or irregulars, which makes them pretty nasty at mowing through those types of units. Goblin skirmishers, yet another one. So again, super squishy, but again, missile 2. And again, you'll have these in quantity too, right? So in most cases when you're dealing with forces that have access to goblins. So it's never just a case of like, oh, there's just one unit. And then the bog standard, we're back to the Orog. So we are moving back around. So goblins do have quite a bit there. Getting on to the Anuiran infantry here. So sort of basic stuff. Cavalry, the average cavalry, solid all around. Move 3, very, very fast, right? So you should be able to set engagements on your terms. Average stats, but charge of 5, you definitely want to make sure you get that charge and get as much work out of that as possible. They also do come with missile of 1, again, occasionally can contribute there. And we're in infantry, just solid all around, 3s, and then better versus pikes and irregulars. They can only take 1 hit though. Pikemen, again, solid stats, very similar here, but they're better, of course, against mounted units and can't be charged, period. So it does negate enemy charge values. But beyond that, again, they're not necessarily overly strong, and will fold after a while, especially with them only taking a hit. Anywhere in archers are very good, pretty quick, move 2, average, well actually below average, melee, but really we don't want them in melee, right? But missile 4 standard is great, and +1 missile versus mounted, so also good there, especially if we're dealing with some of the other nastier things out there. The elite anywhere in infantry is really where it's at. So 4 built in, again, slow, but that's all right. They can actually take 2 hits versus the regular infantry, and they still have the built-in bonus versus pikes or irregulars. So these really should, just mow through things like goblin skirmishers without really any trouble. The scouts are actually kind of cool all-rounders and can do a lot. So a lot of times when we looked at the different nations out there that have access to scouts, you might think, the scouts kind of suck. Yeah, they're actually pretty solid all around. What do you get? You get very fast movement, 3, move through any terrain feature freely. Below average melee, but again, that they're not frontline fighters, right? But they come with missile 3 as well, which is really just a step down from the archers. So they can kind of do a little bit of everything, and they're cheaper to field and stuff like that too. We'll come here to one of these special units, so probably won't see these a lot depending on the campaign you're doing, but could be cool just to have them show up every once in a while. But the Imperial Legion is literally the best that humans can field. Move of 2, built-in melee and defense of 5, all 3 morale icons, charge value of 6, again, infantry not often get charges as charge value, and then a missile of 3 on top of that. So yeah, if you somehow had more than one of these units in your forces, very good stuff. Now, facing them obviously is a nightmare, right? Then they can also take 2 hits, and they're still functional. So other than that, before we get into the elves, let's take a look at the Anuiran Knights as well. So versus the cavalry, right? Step up, better melee, better defense. A little bit slower, that's all right. Charge value of 6 is great. We dropped the missiles because knights are going to be dealing with that. And all 3 morale icons, at least on this one. So overall, good stuff. Now, we'll actually skip a few things here. So let's go to the Anuiran Artillerists. So missile of 5, ignore defensive terrain bonuses. Obviously going to be slow and suck at melee, right? That's not what they're about at all. But also good if you're working on dealing with fortifications and stuff like that. So the lowest of the low, levies, obviously that's what you get. Now, ironically, they can take 2 hits. So melee 2, defense 1, just one morale icon, and move a 1. They can, like I said, take 2 hits. At 2 hits, though, they literally won't do much, but ridiculously cheap to field. So better than nothing, I suppose. We do have mercenaries, access to mercenaries as well. So, and then we'll come to the elves and the dwarves. So, and we're in irregulars. Again, solid all-rounders. Well worth considering. Shouldn't look down on mercenaries here. Move 2, melee 3, defense 2, missile 2. So somewhat similar to some of the goblin units. So just they can do a little bit of everything, but aren't particularly great. But cheap to field. Mercenary infantry, very similar to the regular Annuirian ones. So same rules apply there, basically. Merc Cavalry is basically a carbon copy of the Annuirian Cavalry. So again, same things apply there, but also cheaper again to raise and field. So then let's come to the elves. Superb missile fire, the best archery unit really that you can have. Melee 2, defense 2, again, they're squishy, but elves also move freely through any terrain, which really gives them that little advantage there, but missile 5, just straight up. So, now unfortunately they don't get that bonus that like the Annuirian ones do versus mounted units, so I'm not sure why, but probably make them a little bit broken. But melee missile 5 is great. Elf Cavalry is also just very solid, not top tier, but again, they do some things that others just simply can't, right? So first off, movement 4. So these guys will be anywhere they want to be and engage when and how they want. Melee 3, defense 3, so they're not overly durable, of course. They can only take 1 hit too, so that's maybe their downside. Charge of 5 is still very respectable, but hey, it's a cavalry unit that has missile 4. So really, you set the tone, you engage when you want, how you want. So by all means, you're going to soften up the enemies to where they have some hits on them, and then you're going to charge and engage, again, how you want to. The dwarves, as you might expect, super defensive, but even the crossbowmen here, only melee 2, but defense 4, so they can hang around a little bit in combat. Missile 4, they ignore rout and fallback caused by magic, and then they can take a hit as well, but very good morale. The dwarf guards, very good infantry. Again, melee 3 is average, but defense 5 is top tier, and these guys can take 2 hits. So, and again, ignore fallback and rout caused by magic. So the very last thing to look at is if you want to include yourselves, basically, your characters as adventurers as a unit. So you can't be your own unit. Most units here represent, like, I think it's about 300 to 500 individuals. But adventurers basically add to a unit and add to their ratings, which can make some units absolutely insanely powerful. Adventurers take damage only when the unit they're attacked or stacked with is destroyed. But yeah, +2 melee, +2 charge, +2 missile, and defense +1. Pretty damn good. You can take an average unit and make it elite, essentially, or an elite or top tier unit and just make it ungodly powerful. But, hell, even something like sticking with levies, melee 4 levies, defense 2, giving levies a charge value, and missiles a missile value. So, just silly things, but adventures are super cool, obviously. And then we have a couple more cavalry here for the humans, some specialist ones. So typically only see these if you're, dealing with some of these non-political domains, but there's a few for the different NPC domains as well. So first off, you have the Knights of Kurakin, so super elite knights, melee 5, defense 5, so just strictly better than the Annuirian ones, and also charge 7, and they ignore fallbacks caused by magic. So very, very elite there. Again, kind of cream of the crop. The Iron Guard of Moray, not quite as good. Oops. But, again, trying to get both in the frame here for you guys. Still very respectable and better than, slightly better than the regular Annuirian Knights. So basically you get an extra melee out of these guys. So everything else is the same stat-wise, but unlike the Kurakin guys and the Annuirian Knights, these guys can actually take 3 hits, which will keep them in the fight much, much longer. So something that you'd have to respect if you were trying to engage the Moor. We completely said that backwards. Iron Guard of Gore, not Moor, the Iron Guard of Gore. So yes, and Gore being overly militaristic, they're going to have a lot of these guys, so something that you're going to have to deal with. There we go. The Guardians of Morid, getting things backwards here. These guys are also interesting. So again, not as elite stat-wise as the Kurakin Knights, but you still have this very, just great knight stats, but you get missiles on human knights, which is interesting. And they can only take 2 hits, so just like the other knights. So again, most durable, I think, is going to be the Iron Guard of Gore, but that little wrinkle of being able to throw missiles in, again, can soften up some enemies and then take your already towards the high-end stats and make them that much more impactful because you can contribute as a missile unit. And then lastly, The Knights of Halen are up there with Kurakin as far as just pure raw stats. So 5 and 5 for melee defense, charge of 7. And these guys ignore any fallback or route caused by magic, and again, top tier morale. But they only take 2 hits. Well, only, right? That's still very, very good. But most defensive really is going to be the Iron Guard of Gore, but everything else is, these are all just very elite units regardless. So in no way, shape, or form should we consider any of them, less than amazing. So we'll be right back and kind of sum up things here for you guys. But this has been a quick look at all the different war cards from the base set. There's many more from the different expansions when we get to Rurik, etc., Kinasi, Brecht, and the naval battles. But this is plenty to start with. And again, by all means, if you don't have enough copies of things, feel free to photocopy. Should be easy. I'd say worth certainly going with color copies and going from there. So, but yeah, that is everything you get, and then the battlefield. So check out our video on the short little battle so you understand how that works. But we're going to segue into looking at battle cards, fortifications, and magic in a separate video. So stay tuned for that, guys. But hope you enjoyed our quick look here, and leave us some comments how you have enjoyed fighting battles with Birthright so far, or if you have any questions on how any of this works. But this is yet one more component of the Birthright setting that is super, super fun, at least in our opinion. So leave us a comment, like, subscribe. We'll have plenty more Birthright for you guys soon.